Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Thinking Out Loud, where we are dedicated to teaching the ancient Near Eastern context of the Bible. And we do this in hopes that you would come to realize what I have and what we have collectively as the Mavi Church, in that the best context to interpret the Bible is its original context. I believe that's the case with any given context, that the best context to interpret anything is in its original context. And you can apply that to whatever it is in your life, whether it be a series, like a movie, or a TV show or a movie. Well, you don't want to take whatever's going on in that movie out of its original context, or you'll draw a faulty conclusion. That's the case with the biblical text. And so I wanted to welcome you back to our What is the Bible series. Again, we've been moving throughout this series. I think this is the 13th part or something. I wanted to let you know in the show notes or in the description section of this video, we have all of the series lined up. So you just click on it. It takes you to the full series of What is the Bible, all of our content, and then our resources that we quote from, so you can go and get them yourself. And of course, there's a tab for that on the website that I created. And so I just want to welcome you back. And of course, this is the third part of what is the Bible's main character, the invisible Yahweh. The third time we're going through the invisible Yahweh of the Old Testament. So let's dive in here and we'll talk a little bit about this. I'm going to be following the web page that I created for this, which is in the description section under today's teaching. So go ahead and click on that, and you can go along with it and follow me and click on the things and see the Bible verses and everything for yourself. Again, we do this so that you guys can adopt this worldview for yourself, and you're not just taking my word for it. I didn't take somebody's word for it. I got in there and started to look through these resources that I'm going to be talking about today, this one in particularly, and then another one. And so do it for your guys' self. You won't regret it, and you'll be able to teach this to other people, which is the truth. And so let's get right into the invisible Yahweh, part 3. Welcome back to Critical Thinking Out Loud's continuation of our study on what is the Bible's main character, with another installment of the invisible Yahweh. Now, this is another teaching in our foundational series on what is the Bible, the 13th part. Can't believe it. We believe that context is key for properly understanding any given topic, and the same is true with our teaching today. All of the content in this series is connected and builds off of each other. To understand today's teaching in its fullest capacity, check out the other teachings in this series first. So just like we said, context is key. Well, that proves to be true in this series for itself. So check out that other stuff if you haven't had a chance to, by clicking on the little glowing link there, the blue glowing link on the page. And our goal in this series is to equip you guys or others with a portfolio about the ancient Near Eastern biblical authors' worldview, so that you can keep that knowledge in the forefront of your minds while studying the scriptures. And we do this in hopes that you will see and experience for yourself the clarity that this practice of interpreting the scriptures in their ancient Near Eastern context can bring. I can fully testify to this, guys. This is my sweet spot. I think I mentioned that last week. This is one of my favorite things to teach. I've had the privilege of teaching it for a long time now, a couple years running. This is my third year in teaching all of this stuff, and this is my favorite part of these teachings. And so I really love this stuff, and I think and hold this to be the truth that the biblical authors are communicating to us. And it's not conventional at all, but it's the truth. And so we need to go back into what they believe to figure this stuff out. And in this installment, we will be continuing our study on the invisible Yahweh and how he reveals himself visibly to humanity in the form of a man via the name. Now, we're going to learn throughout this teaching of theophanies and the name and the angel of the Lord. This is the ancient Near Eastern biblical author's worldview. And as I have done in all the other teachings, I'm going to be quoting from scholarly sources to make my point. And I do this in hopes that you will understand that this isn't just my interpretation off the cuff, something Josh made up or whatever you want to or could say. This is steeped in academia. This is people who are ancient Near Eastern linguistic scholars, and they have drawn these same conclusions. So we'll be using two of our amazing recommended resources. The first one, is not this one. It's Faith Life Study Bible. I use that on my iPad, but it's free to use on the app or online, and you can download it by clicking on the link there that's on the page. And you can get it in print also. I haven't gotten that yet. I'm going to get it when I go back to the States, but the free version online is enough. There's no reason you shouldn't be using this in your Bible studies, and the app is amazing. There's pictures and there's graphs and charts and everything you could possibly need. That would just get anything that you want. But my favorite resource is the NIV Cultural Background Study Bible. This is my favorite resources for gaining a better understanding of the ancient Near Eastern worldview of the biblical authors, most of the stuff I'm teaching you guys today. And this is available in a multitude of variations, all of which can be found on our resource page by clicking there. So let's get started. I use the NIV, by the way, the NIV Cultural Background Study Bible. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy, I'm doing something, so can you go?
We ate cookies now, and I ate the biggest one in the middle.
Good job. Okay, shut my door, buddy.
Okay.
Good job, buddy. That's my little guy. He doesn't make an appearance very much, but when he does, there he is. And so he ate a big cookie is what he's saying. So we're proud of him for doing that. But anyway, I was saying I use the NIV. It's easier for me to quote out of to you guys, but the King James Version is available, and also the NRSV. I'm pretty sure all ESV, they're all available now. So y'all can go over there and check that out. Let's get started. Our teaching on the visible Yahweh centers around the ancient Near Eastern biblical authors' description of the invisible God revealing himself visibly to humanity through the theophany of a man. In the Old Testament, this man theophany is described in 4 ways. We've gone through 3 of those over the past weeks, or 2 of them we've gone through, and this is the 3rd one. The first one was the Word, which was amazing, and the angel of the Lord. And this week we'll be covering the 3rd way the ancient Near Eastern biblical authors describe this man theophany. Now remember, theophany, we've been using this word throughout this series, and throughout the series, we have been looking at the ancient Near Eastern view of theophany and the role it plays in the pantheon of a nation. Theophany is the visible manifestation of a deity revealed to humanity. Here's a quote from the Faith Life Study Bible, one of our recommended resources. Since people cannot possibly process God's nature as a disembodied, formless spirit, physical way that people can discern through their senses. That's from Faith Life Study Bible in the article Theophany in the Old Testament. We love that article. We quote from that a lot. So check it out by going and clicking on the link right there. And that's just a disembodied, formless spirit cannot be sensed by us. So he uses our senses, and that's what that means right there. And in the Hebrew Bible, there are many forms God uses as a theophany to make his presence known to people. Whirlwind, smoke, fires are just a couple examples, to name a few, which we would be familiar with. Now, during the duration of the Visible Yahweh study, we will be focusing especially on the ancient Near Eastern theophany of a man and its counterpart in the belief of the Godhead of the ancient Near East Israelites found in the Old Testament. So I want to just take a break there. This is coming off this little script thing, but I talk about this a lot, that the New Testament idea of a Trinity didn't just arrive after Jesus was ascended to heaven, and all these monotheist Hebrews that just converted to Christianity are like, 2 gods is better than 1, or hey, 3, or 3 gods revealed in 1. That didn't just come off of the cuff in the 1st century. This is rooted way back into the Old Testament, into the 3rd chapter of Genesis, but the 15th Genesis, as we've looked at, and even before that, this Trinity plucked up out of its original context, you can get such a deeper view of what the Trinity is if you root it back in its original context, which is what we're doing today. So, the Godhead of the ancient Israelites found in the Old Testament. Over the course of the last two installments, we learned that the invisible God appears to humanity visibly in the form of the Word of the Lord, the angel of the Lord. And if you haven't gone over that content yet, check it out there. So that's our mini series. I think I have the link there, and it's just the mini 4-part series with the 2 parts of the word of the Lord and the angel of the Lord in the visible Yahweh mini series there. So go check that out if you haven't, and then in its context, come on over here because we're going to be building off of that stuff today. Let's check out the name. That's what we're talking about. This week of Critical Thinking Out Loud, we're going to learn about how Yahweh appears to humans in the theophany of a man known in the Old Testament as the name. Identifying the name of the Lord is going to be similar to the other 2 studies on this theophany that we have looked at thus far. This new outlook may come as a bit of a surprise to us due to the fact that we most likely have already formed a certain understanding of these familiar texts. We talked about this for the last 2 times. We're not using new texts, really. We're not saying, oh, look at these obscure passages, which would be, even if we did, that would be fine. But these are well-known stories, Exodus and the burning bush and Samuel being called and all the other ones that we looked at, Isaiah, and just so many that these are not obscure passages. And the reason why this might be hard for us to kind of rework in our mind, reform in our mind, is because of the familiarity of the text. Sorry, guys. I had a couple hours of class today working on this in Turkish already. And so my brain's not fried enough. I'm going to do this in English as well. It's my pleasure. I love this stuff. So I believe we will gain a deeper understanding of the Bible as we look at the details while we critically think aloud together. Let's jump in Exodus. This is Exodus 23. 20 through 23, you can click on the, it's right there on the page. I don't put them all full quotes on the page, but it is here in there's a hyperlink there that you can click on it and certainly see it for yourself and read in the context. So let's see Exodus 23, 20 through 23. Quote, "See, I'm sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I've prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him, for I will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, Hittites, Pizerites, Canaanites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and I will wipe them out." End quote. Exodus 23, 20 through 23. Now, before I go on, did you catch that? I'm sending an angel ahead of you. I will not forgive your rebellion since my name is in him. Listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say. My angel will go ahead of you. And so who's talking here? Who's not forgiving? Who's saying stuff? Who's commanding stuff? Yes is just the answer. Everything. Yes to everything. Yahweh. It's Yahweh who's talking. It's Yahweh who's the angel. It's Yahweh who we're making a case for now is the name. So let's continue. This is the passage we have. In this passage, we have some familiar characters. Yahweh is relating to Moses that he is going to send his angel to lead them through the wilderness into the promised land. Remember that we learned in the second week of the visible Yahweh study that the angel of the Lord is Yahweh. Yahweh is the angel of the Lord. And so who brought the Israelites into the promised land? The angel of the Lord. Who brought the Israelites into the promised land? Yahweh. Both is a yes. They're both the same. So who is the name? Notice how this passage identifies the angel of the Lord as Yahweh, as one and the same via the name. Do not quote, here we'll quote it, quote, do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say. It's indispensable right there. He says, he will not forgive your rebellion since my name is in him. Listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say. They're one and the same. Here's a quote from the same resource with some insight to this conflation. So this is the Faith Life Study Bible again. Quote, the Old Testament writers at times deliberately make the angel of Yahweh indistinguishable from Yahweh. An example here is Exodus 3, 1 through 14. For instance, according to Exodus 23, the angel has Yahweh's name in him. Exodus 23, 20 through 23. This passage gives a glimpse of the Hebrew Bible's name theology, in which refers to the name, in which reference to the name, actually refers to Yahweh himself. Thus, in Exodus 23, Yahweh indicates that he is in the angel. And yet, in other passages, Yahweh and the angel can be simultaneously but separately present, and that's Judges 6, end quote. That's from Faith Life Study Bible in the article, Old Testament Godhead Language. Now, that last part right there, Yahweh indicates that he is the angel. He is in the angel. Amen. Exodus 23, that's what we just read via the name. I'll show my cards here. And yet, in other passages, Yahweh and the angel can be simultaneously but separately present. Judges 6, as we talked about last week. Remember, Gideon, he sees the angel, he thinks he's talking to a man, and then he sacrifices, and the angel disappears, and it goes from Lord to, angel to Lord, and we don't know who's really talking at any given part because it's indistinguishable. It's by design indistinguishable until the angel of the Lord disappears, and then Gideon is struck fear. He's struck fearful of his life. I'm going to die. I saw him face to face. And then the Lord, not the angel of the Lord, says, you won't die. Don't be afraid. So they're simultaneously but separately present in Judges 6. Check out that teaching if you haven't yet. It's awesome. So the name theology. A name not only represents a being, but it can also be used to identify a being. Your name can be invoked to represent you while you're not present or identify your presence. This is just a name. We don't think about this very much, but if I'm not there and somebody says Josh, well, everybody knows who Josh is, but I'm not there. If I'm there and they say Josh and I say, yes, I'm here, my presence is recognizable. So think about Yahweh while the Israelites are in Babylon. Yahweh's presence was not with them. He left the temple and they got taken away, but they knew and called on the name of the Lord, but his presence wasn't there. So they're not simultaneously the same thing. Can't be conflated to be the same thing, but they represent two different things. So here's a quote from our other trusted recommended resource. This guy right here, he's awesome. You guys should totally get this. Quote, ancient Egyptians believed in a close relationship between the name of a deity and the deity itself, i.e., the name of God could reveal part of the essential nature of that God. And that's going to be end quote there for us. And that's the NIV Cultural Background Study Bible on the article on God's name. And there's just articles all throughout this. Here's one right here. And this is on the article of God's name on page 112 for you guys who have that resource, because I know some of you guys have them out there. So get that resource. It's amazing. Seriously, guys, I love this thing. Let's continue. The ancient Near Eastern biblical authors shared the same concept with their belief in Yahweh. Obviously, Jehovah, Yahweh, or no, that's Jehovah Jireh. Sorry, I was saying in Turkish there. Jehovah Jireh, that's God provides, the provider God. So that, as the quote says, the name could reveal a part of the essential nature of God. God provides. Jehovah Jireh. Sorry, I keep mixing them up with Turkish. The Hebrews lived in bondage in Egypt for over 400 years. The ancient Near Eastern worldview was heavily influenced by Egyptian thought, and their practices were similar to all Near Eastern people. So the ancient Near Eastern worldview was heavily influenced by Egyptian thought, and all of their practices were kind of similar. And so we see that throughout the Bible. And we'll be hitting on that in the near future. Whoops, let me change that. When we get into a really cool topic that we're going to talk about, God going to war with the gods of Egypt, and how he uses that to wake up the whole world. It's an awesome teaching. I can't wait to get into it. I'm going through that. That's what I was going through in today with the book and editing it in Turkish. And I just love that stuff. So be prepared. We're going to get into that stuff. So here's an example of what we're talking about out of the Bible. This is Psalms 20, 2 through 7. Quote, "May the Lord answer you when you are in distress. May the name of the God of Jacob protect you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and grant you support from Zion. May he remember all your sacrifices and accept your burnt offerings. May he give you the desire of your heart and make all your plans succeed. May we shout for joy over your victory and lift up our banners in the name of our God." The name of our God. There we go. "May the Lord grant all your requests. Now this I know, the Lord gives victory to his anointed. He answers him from his heavenly sanctuary with the victorious power of his right hand. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God." And that's Psalm 20, 2 through 7. The name of God, and God is the name. They aren't just literally trusting in the name, they're trusting in the presence of the name. Let's check out Isaiah. Here's a quote from Isaiah 30, 27. "See, the name of the Lord comes from afar with burning anger in dense clouds of smoke. His lips are full of wrath and his tongue is a consuming fire." There's a correlation between the visible Yahweh and the name made in this passage out of the book of Isaiah. The name of the Lord comes in anthropomorphic form. That's in the form of a man, or in a humanly form. Anthropomorphic, that's the name of that. This is clearly not the disembodied, formless, invisible. Sorry, this is clearly not the disembodied, formless Yahweh. For the name in this passage has lips and a tongue. So it's something that you can see and discern through your senses. Remember, that's what we're talking about in the beginning here, that a theophany is something, is a deity revealing itself to humans via their senses. So I see some lips, I see some tongue, I see a smoke, I see, what else does it say here? It's coming from afar. I see it coming from afar. This isn't a disembodied, formless spirit. In burning anger, so it has an emotion here, and in a dense cloud of smoke. So definitely we're talking about the visible Yahweh here. In this theophany, the name is God's visible presence made visible to humans in the form of a man. God's presence. Let's check out Deuteronomy. Here's a quote, "You were shown these things so that you might know that the Lord is God. Besides him, there is no other. From heaven, he made you hear his voice to discipline you. On earth, he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words from out of the fire. Because he loved your ancestors and chose their descendants after them, he brought you out of Egypt by his presence and his great strength, to drive out before you the nations greater and stronger than you, and to bring you into the land, to give it to you for your inheritance as it is today." Deuteronomy 4:35 through 37. Well, what did it say in Exodus? "My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites." Well, the angel of the Lord is his presence, and his presence is his name. That's the connection we're making here today. They're all Yahweh, but in visible form. So the name can be understood as Yahweh's physical presence. Let's think about this for a little bit. Who was it that told Abraham that his lineage, those who had not even been born yet, would be mistreated and enslaved in a strange country for 400 years, but after which would be brought out with a great possession? We talked about this the first week, the visible Yahweh as the Word, Genesis 15. Who was it in the burning bush when Yahweh commissioned Moses to lead his enslaved and mistreated people out of Egypt? We talked about this last week, the visible Yahweh as the angel of the Lord, Exodus 3. Who killed the firstborn sons of Egypt and led the Hebrews to safety? The visible Yahweh as the angel of the Lord. We talked about that. The death angel is the angel of the Lord. And who led the Hebrews to the promised land in the fire by night and the smoke by day? The visible Yahweh, the invisible Yahweh's visible presence via the angel of the Lord. That's Exodus 23 and Deuteronomy 4, which we just read. So the invisible God's presence appears visibly in the theophany of a man throughout the Old Testament as the Word, the angel of the Lord, and the name. His name to dwell. Here we go. Before the nations of Israel are completely established in the promised land, the Hebrew people would sacrifice to Yahweh in many different places. You had Shiloh, you had a bunch of places. So you had a temple in Shiloh, and then they move away, but people are still sacrificing there. There's a bunch of different other places. Ultimately, then there's the tabernacle that is usually with the army, and then when God picks his place, then there's the temple complex on Mount Zion. So there's a bunch of different places before they're established in the land. Once they are established in the promised land, they are commanded to only sacrifice in the place that God chooses for his name to dwell. Check out this. This is Deuteronomy 12, 4 through 6. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way. I'm going to break in here real quick. The way of the people of the land. Back to the quote. But you are to seek the place the Lord your God chooses from among all your tribes to put his name there for his dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and your special gifts, what you have vowed to give, and your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. This is 11. Then to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name, there you will bring everything I command you. Your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, and all the choice possessions you have vowed to the Lord. End quote. There we see, let me do something real quick. There we see the Lord picking a place for his name to dwell. Deuteronomy 12, 4 through 6 and 11. Many of us have probably assumed that Yahweh is talking about his verbal name or audible name, but I'm proposing to you today that this is not the case. The place he chooses is not for his verbal name, but his presence to dwell in. Another way of talking about this place, which he chose for a dwelling of his presence, is the tabernacle / temple, depending on the time that we're talking about. Both of these, the tabernacle and the temple, house the Ark of the Covenant, which is where the presence of God dwelled with his people. We can be assured that we are not talking about the verbal name of God here, but his presence. Choosing a place for his name to dwell is referring to the place where the temple complex is later erected, and it's precisely there the presence of God dwelled throughout a large portion of the Hebrew Bible. The ark is his presence, in which is his name. So the ark is his presence, or where his presence dwells, which is his name. One of my favorite examples of this is in the book of 2 Samuel. Here we go. We're going to quote from 2 Samuel 6, 1 through 2. 2 Samuel 6, 1 through 2. Quote, David again brought together all the young All the able young men of Israel, 30,000. He and his men went to Bala in Judah to bring up from there the ark of God, which is called by the name of the Lord Almighty, who is enthroned between the cherubim on the ark. End quote. 2 Samuel 6, 1 through 2. The ark, as was well known to the Israelites by the epithet, the Lord's footstool, since this is the hotspot for the invisible Yahweh's presence, or just Yahweh's presence, we can say. Those who touched the ark or looked inside without permission were destroyed by the Lord on the spot. The ancient Israelites called the ark of the Lord the name. How the ark became to be known as the name is, in my opinion, one of the more interesting examples of the name being applied to the man theophany in the Old Testament. This is believed to have been derived from what would transpire in the temple on the Hebrew festival, the Day of Atonement. While Yahweh's disembodied presence was always on top of the ark, once a year on the Day of Atonement, the high priest entered into the Holy of Holies, where the ark of the Lord resided. On this day, on top of the mercy seat, between the cherubim, the presence of the Lord appeared in the form of a man. Since each year on the ark of the Lord is where Yahweh appeared visibly in the form of a man, the ark and their conception of the name were conflated to mean the same thing. The place where Yahweh's visible presence dwells. The ark is where the presence of the Lord is, and the name is Yahweh's presence on the ark. So before I wrap it up here, did you guys understand that? I heard this from a teaching once, and it just blew me away that, always on the ark is God's presence. Yahweh resides on top, in between the cherubim. You just couldn't see him. So like if they took him out to battle, they would see just the ark. But it still had the power. It was the footstool of God. So his power, his presence, his being is on the ark, the invisible Yahweh. And in Samuel, it's the first book where they take the ark out, and then the Philistines get it, and it's in the Philistine land, and it's causing havoc, a lot like the same thing that's going on in Egypt. There's just plagues and things are happening, to the fact where they put this thing on a cart and they say, if Yahweh's presence is on here, it'll go back to where it's supposed to. And they put it on there, and they don't lead the cows. The cows just go straight back to where they're supposed to go. So his presence is always on the ark. But on the day of the Day of Atonement, on the Holy of Holies, the high priest had to go in there and throw blood all over the place. And on the top of the ark would appear in a cloud of smoke the visible Yahweh. And so since they called the presence or the visible Yahweh the word, they also called it the angel of the Lord, who the angel of the Lord always showed up while in the smoke in the wilderness, and the name all represent the visible Yahweh's presence. And since it would appear there, they took that understanding, everything that we've taught over the last 3 weeks, and then they applied it to the Ark of the Covenant. So here, when David said, go get the name, and he's referring to the Ark, is because they took these two ideas, the Ark of the Covenant as the footstool of Yahweh, and the name and the presence of God, the visible presence of God, and they conflated them together so they could call the ark the name, the presence of the Lord, the presence of the visible Lord, as we could say today. So God chose to appear to us, guys. We talk about this all the time. The Trinity that we have come to know as Christians is rooted in Old Testament theology. Ever since the beginning, the invisible God has chosen to make himself known to humans through his visible manifestation in the form of a man. Before his incarnation, Jesus, that's where we're ultimately going with this, guys. I've said it over and over. Jesus, before he's embodied, before the incarnation, is still the visible Yahweh, known in the Old Testament as the second person of the Trinity by 4 different epithets, or these motifs. I want to leave you with this last quote from one of our recommended resources. The quote, "Theophanies set the precedent for Jesus. They help make sense of why and how God chose to appear in human form," end quote. That's from Faith Life Study Bible, the article on theophany in the Old Testament. In the 3 weeks, this study on the in these 3 weeks on the study of the visible Yahweh, sorry guys, in the Old Testament, we have discussed 3 out of the 4 of Yahweh's man theophany motifs. Those are the Word, the angel of the Lord, in the name, and they're all used in the Old Testament to describe the invisible God appearing in visible form to humans as a man. Next week, we will learn the 4th, which will be the rider on the clouds. Love that one. It's really cool. And you guys already get it, so it's not showing my hand too much or anything. These are all connected. The presence is the angel, and the angel is the Word, and the Word is Yahweh, and it's all yes. It's all yes. These things are all connected. They're all Yahweh. So peace and blessings. Biblical doctrine derives from the biblical text. That's where we got all this stuff. And citations here: Faith Life Study Bible by J.D. Barry at Bellingham, Washington. Logos Bible Software in 2012. And the NIV Cultural Background Study Bible is from Grand Rapids, Michigan, USA Zondervan, 2016. And a call for action, guys, for you guys who hear this, if you want to help us by learning more, you can get our favorite resources off of our recommended resource page, which is in the description below, or in our recommended resource tab on the website. Again, go check out the website, and you can get this. It is at no extra cost to you, but at a lot of help to us because it helps secure our links. And if you would want to help us out, we have our book that we translated here. That's the foundational teachings in our ministries, which is supernatural. That's on there. A bunch of other books that we recommend and have gone through in the teachings. So if you guys want to help us out by doing that, it's a big help. If you want to just donate to us, there's a donation tab on the website too. That helps us out. We do all this stuff out of our own resources for you guys, and it's our pleasure. This is just, like I said, my bread and butter. I love this stuff. I teach it all the time. And we just wanted to let you guys know that these resources are available to you. We want to thank you so much for joining us here on Critical Thinking Out Loud. And as we've been kind of growing and the groundswell behind this stuff, we're just so glad that you guys got to be a part of it with us. And we will see you back next time for the last installment of The Visible Yahweh, which is the rider on the clouds. And it's going to be a great one. That will be next Tuesday. We look forward to seeing you guys then. Be safe and God bless.